Hey y'all, I know that I usually announce when I'm going to go live, but I'm tired. But I wanted to come and talk to you all tonight about people who are embarking on spirituality and some of the things that I have gotten. I've just finished a magical mentoring session, and I was explaining to the young lady that you know you want to practice, you're very interested in magic, but you really you don't know what you want to study. And that's the biggest thing. I try to tell people they don't call it spell work. I mean, spell play, they call it spell work. They don't call it root play, they call it root work. Whatever magical practices that you want to practice, that's why they call it a practice. I keep trying to explain to people. People always wanting to say that you cannot learn how to be a witch from a book. No. Some of us more powerful people, or who have seen, I would say, not powerful people, but have seen their magic to be more effective, have usually done a tremendous amount of work. Hey, everybody. I know that when I first started practicing, I told you if there was going to be ever write a book, it's going to be called The Reluctant Mambo, because I was interested primarily because I wanted to wrap my mind around the spirits and the ancestors in my ancestral home and who had followed me. And then it was secondary that I wanted to go and reread everything that I read in graduate school, because we took, I read Morrison, Naylor, Butler, I know I'm missing some people, Tony Bambara. There's this one, I can't never remember her name, but it was from, she reminded me of Gabriel Garcia Marquez. It was the girl who played Nettie in Color Purple. So the something of Benito Blackbird. But all of those books were filled with our spirituality, African beliefs, and magic. And I want to get back and read some of those again with a different eye. You read it really differently when you don't have a connection with spirit. But one of the things I'm telling this person, they booked a magical mentoring session. I don't understand why folks do this. There's two types of clients that I do not understand. The ones that come to you for a divination, they ain't got no questions. And then the ones that come to you for a magical mentoring session and they have no field of interest. You got to start somewhere. It was interesting because I pulled a card for her, and it was the Eight of Swords. I couldn't remember the number. But how often do we have all of these battles, choices, things that may be, competing for our emotional, spiritual selves, and we feel hopeless? We're blind. We have no idea what's out there, and we feel like our hands are tied. So we're tying our own hands. I'm sitting here next to, I was telling her, like dreams. My grandmother had a dream book. I need to really up my edition. This is 2017, Three Wise Men Dream Book. And then it was funny because I read the back of it about Mother Powers. This is the combination of magic and numerology and astrology. That's what they base these numbers on. And so people who played the numbers, especially my grandmother's generation, when it was called the policy, and then when the lottery became legal, used these books. These books were based on numerology, astrology, magic. And, I was just telling her, just because you're learning a certain form of magic, especially if it's ancestral, there is a different, rich magical tradition. So I picked up this Greater Key of Solomon Grimoire, and I'm going to check this out. It's smaller than I thought it would be, so I think I'm going to get through it fairly quickly. My friend Arius, he's teaching a Zoom on sigils, when you talk about sigils, veve, sacred geometry, there's so many layers to ancient symbols. And so that's one area of study. I always tell people that, yeah, I love these magic. This was my grandmama's stuff. So much that I know the number, and I can't find it in the newer ones, but you can find it in her older one. The number 369 is for shit. And it was hilarious because that's my ex-husband's month and birth year. So, but, or there's astrology, there's palmistry, there is bone throwing, there is oracle readings, tarot readings. You got to learn a divination system. Especially one of the things that new people who come into this practice, they don't trust themselves. And I said, well, everything about spirituality really is that you're trusting someone at a higher level than yourself so that you can trust yourself. Because you're listening to your spirit, your Holy Spirit, your third eye. You're listening to your higher self. And your higher self is your ancestors. And so I was explaining to her as well that, what interests you most? Because for a lot of people, it is the culture in which they live, they were raised, and what feels more familiar to you. And I always tell people, well, start there. Even if you don't know much about your ancestors, if you know your makeup, your cultural makeup, then you start within your culture because that's where you're going to find your people. And especially as far as your ancestors are concerned. And that's my personal take on it. There are other people that simply work with elemental magic. And at the end of the day, all of our gods, all of our spirits represent one or more of these elements. They are these elements personified. The element of the element. You got the fire that consumes and destroys. But that same fire that kills and destroys also creates rebirth and regrowth. And you'll see that in different religions, like the phoenix. Okay? So you really have to figure out what you want to do. Because there's no way that somebody can help you dig deeper if you don't have a passion for something. I tell people magic can be as simple or as more complicated as you want it to be. But magicians, and I've known a lot of highly skilled, trained magicians, make some shit happen, okay? In fact, their divinations aren't, what the cards say. It's like, this is, I'm going to make this happen. I have seen practitioners who operate in that manner. I operate in the manner of what do you need to do to make this happen, because I want your destiny to definitely be in your own hands. But you guys, there is a combination, and I tell my students this all the time. This is a little precursor for Magic 101 in case you might be thinking about signing up and taking that class. I first of all, magic can be as simple as you've got a few crystals on a table, and you got maybe a candle, some water, and you just, keeping it loose and easy, okay? But I've seen a big shift because back 10 years ago, everybody was trying to study whatever they could, out-scholar the other person, and say, this is why, this is this, and this religion, and this is this and that. Now I'm seeing people, I ask all of the people that come to me for a mentoring session, when's the last time you read a magical book? Like, read the book, the whole book? Because I know, and that was one of the things I was telling this person about. I thought that there would be, this COVID was going to give me a minute to breathe. No, baby. I design online courses for a living. That's the day job. And in the store, people are really trying to get their lives right with spirit. And, it's been very busy. Hey, Mary. But, you should take time to at least find out what resonates with you. And I tell people, I never started teaching, preaching magic to anybody until I'd done enough on myself and or observed the magic of the people who were teaching me, who were my elders, and saw that shit work. You know, and that's the thing you have to do as far as magic is concerned. You are going to have to do what works for you. There are tons of people out here that have, you know, for example, I've met a lot of people who've moved to ATRs after being, hi Dominique, after moved into ATRs after first being exposed to magic by their local occult store and Wicca and maybe some herb magic, and then they found out about hoodoo, and then they found out about voodoo and Ifa, Candomblé, Mbanda. They found out about all of these things on their journey, and they went where they most culturally connected. And that will change for people over time as well, the more you know. But I'm really tired. I'm tired of y'all. I am. And I'm tired of myself because I need to spend more time and study. There are other forms of magic. There are so many forms of magic. Man, I wish I could do a natal chart by hand. I wish I could do palmistry. I wish I could read runes. There are so many things. I'm going to learn me some crystal grid magic because that is my passion. That's a problem though, because hi, I'm glad you caught me live too. That's a problem though, because you can't get started. I mean, I swear, if you gotta put all the different things in a hat, you know, okay, I want to learn about the magic traditions in Lucumi, Santeria, in Cuba. Put that in the hat. You want to learn about all these different things. There's no harm in learning. Don't, you know, my grandfather used to say, you want to hide something from a nigga, put it in a book. That was what my grandfather said. Why? Because he was born the son of a slave. And they knew that we weren't supposed to be reading. And so, unfortunately, we have gotten to this thing where that everything has to be oral. You shouldn't be reading anything, and that's insane, considering Africa created the world's first universities. We were oral when we needed to keep secrets, but basics of spirituality and life have always been recorded. You can go over to Egypt and you see that right on the walls of the Egyptian tombs. So we write, and there's lots of books by us, and there's lots of books by other cultures about our stuff. But I'm going to tell y'all something. The only way that you can get discernment, remember, when we talk about Solomon, and we're talking about this greater key of Solomon, and I want to see how it connects to him and Kabbalic magic and all of that. Because of my intense Christian upbringing, I'm very, very interested in the magic of the early church. Not because I'm Christian anymore, but because I want to see what powers they were working with. And everybody has to learn things as they suit them. But for me, very, very practical, basic magic in maintaining my home. I light my candles every day. I feed my ancestors every day. I'm acknowledge that I live in my home as a temple. It changes the way I feel about living in my home. And so that's how you make magic your life. You know, it's always been here. It's always been here. But just like, you know, especially if you've been fooled or hurt before, how hard it is to open your heart chakra to something or somebody else because of that boundary, that barrier that you might have constructed. Okay? So it's about being in a place where you can release those barriers. Yes, your practice takes practice. And it's very, as much as I'm thinking, you petitioned for this, you prayed for this girl when you saw that this was a passion. You wanted to make it your life, and hell yeah, I had to fund it. And look, I wasn't going to be broke spending money in all these occult stores, especially ones that didn't serve my needs. I decided to be the store because I had things that I wanted in my magical practice that I wanted other people to have available in theirs. I don't use everything I sell in my store. I mean, hell, I don't know what's going to happen after my lease is up in 2022 because it don't look like folks is going to get well soon. I'll bring my business right back into my home because that's all we're really doing right now is web orders. But I wanted to be big, y'all, and I manifested that. Okay? And big is hard. Shit. Big is hard. And I'm thinking, okay, it's time to rescale my business. And those are some of the things that I'll be doing as my space changes. But, I learned by buying things, reading things, doing things. That's life. It's not going to be, in the Christian church, you go to Bible study, right? Why? Where is this idea that you don't dig deep? And you don't have to be a jack of all trades. I'm a schizophrenic in that manner. I want to just know all the things. But one of the things that I learned, and I'll tell you this story that my father did. There was this place in Calumet City. And I forget the guy's name. It might have been Andy or something. He had 4 businesses. They took up all 4 corners of the street. One was a strip club. One was a fish place. The other one was a car dealership. And one was a laundromat. And out of all of those, I think the only one that remained was the fast food place. And my father looked at me and he said, always try to at least do one thing well. He done lost all that money doing all different kinds of things on all 4 corners of the same street. And he didn't get anything but one of them well. So invest in that one thing that's well. My nose is itching. I am not on any drugs of that nature, but my nose is itching. It's probably because I need to dust. I hate dusting. But if you put spiritual cleansing into your dusting, then you can manifest some shit. Or if you put some prosperity into mopping or your floors, or when you sprinkle things on your doorstep, or you're keeping certain things out. Those are the basics. You start at home. You start on you. And please don't think that everybody, a lot of it, I'm seeing it, and I am not jealous because I believe that there is enough business for everybody. But we have had, and I was at the beginning of that wave, I think, influx of people who want to have spiritual businesses and don't know they ass from a hole in the ground. And then what happens is other people get mistaught and other people get mistaught. And so my thing is, if you got a gift, I'm all about it. I'm all about, my friends will tell you, and you're going to see them in the next few months, as we expand the courses on the website. Come get this money. Come and share with your passion with people. Get paid. But there's something bigger than that, because remember, we're teaching everybody how to get to their highest self. And their highest self is their ancestors and their creator and deities, all in between. Okay? What better way than to try to earn a living? But, we got a lot of people out here that just simply don't know what they're doing, scientifically or magically. And that's because people won't dig deep. And you can just find that one thing. Like when I first started practicing, I studied tarot. I don't even know why I was attracted to tarot. But I am. I couldn't at the time. I was like, I really connect with these images. Why do I connect with these images? This is white folk stuff. And find out that the woman who drew them was black. So, hey, Monique. So I found out that the woman who drew the images was black. And I said, well, there you go. That's why I love tarot. But I also learned playing cards. I also learned Lenormand. I don't do Lenormand as much as I should. I'm going to get back because, I'm going to do an unboxing for the Grandma Babies Apothecary Lenormand deck. But before I like to look at stuff. I like to do unboxings, but I really like to come and talk about the actual qualities of the cards. So that's going to take a minute. And because it's been a minute since I've read Lenormand. And I can read oracle cards. I can throw bones because all of those are tools. I've always been a spiritual conduit. But I studied these confirmation tools. Like when I do a divination for people, a lot of times I'll give them the word from spirit before, yes, Jamaican, and she was gay. Okay? So, Pamela Coleman Smith. I will give the divination before I deal a single card. I've always gotten spiritual messages. Now, sometimes I've misinterpreted those messages. And at points in my life, I didn't have a tool to confirm or to say, no, you want some shit. And that is why having that tool is excellent. It's not going to make you psychic. You got to be able to receive. Remember what I told you about opening those parts. All of your head, your root, your sacral, everything to what you believe in. So that you can work with all of those energies and all of those elements. And that so that you may be led to a particular deity from those elements, only to find out you don't belong to that deity at all. You might belong to someone completely opposite because that's what you need. I was not surprised about the spirit of my head at all. But it is a reminder of what I also need for my spiritual growth. Because there is a balance. And that's what, Judica Al says magic levels the playing field. Asian spirituality talks about yin and yang. We've got its balance. And when the earth is out of balance, things get fucked up. And when you're out of balance, things get fucked up. You can be out of chemical balance in your body that can cause any type of ailment. You can be out of balance in your spirit, where you're stressed and anxious and angry all the time, and that shit turns into ulcers, high blood pressure, and diabetes, and possibly stroke. In African tradition, the mind, the body, and the spirit are one. Okay? And so the magical, the medical, and the mundane are one. And in most indigenous cultures, that is the case. And now through colonialism and other things, especially through the slave trade, African traditions came here and evolved, meshed, morphed, but a lot of it stayed the same. And the connections are still there. But you wouldn't know those connections between a nation sack and a mojo bag unless maybe you read some things. Anthropological studies. Zora Neale Hurston was an anthropologist. Read her studies. Read the studies of the studies. So when you go and you read the work cited in an article about a magical topic that really interests you, there should be a work cited if it's a scholarly article. But there are articles written about magic from a scientific perspective, alchemy, holistic medicine. But at some point, you have to understand what your calling is. And the only way to understand your calling is to study, to read about different cultures, especially the ones of your ancestors, their spiritual practices. Read about the spiritual practices of others. and find what resonates you, because what happens far too often, and this is why you go to Half Price Books and get some good ass magical books, y'all. I got a out of print book, Afro Caribbean magic, that was written by Lilith Dorsey. Half Price Books had it. Because what people do is they pick up these books and they either really aren't going to read them because they want magic by osmosis. They want magic. I've got some magical books on tape, but I have to be doing something like refinishing a piece of furniture. I don't even really think I could be painting. Maybe when I'm working in the dollhouse, to listen to a book on tape and retain it. I cannot sit at my desk and try to do my day job and listen to a book on tape. I cannot try to fill orders and listen to a book on tape because I got ADD like that. I'm not going to sit there, and I'm always finding myself rewinding. So the way to really get my attention and to hold on to my knowledge is for me to take the time to read. And so, we talk about New Year's resolutions. I'm giving y'all mine now. I'm going to carve more space for my own education. I've already cut down the times of month that I teach Hoodoo 101, and definitely the number of times a year that I teach the 201. But in the Hoodoo 100s, I teach once a month. I used to teach it twice a month, and I was tired. And I realized that it didn't serve me or my practice at all for me to not further my magical studies. You can't stay in the 100s. I do learn more about the 100s. No class is ever the same. Spirit would tell me to drop some stuff on folks, and I'll be like, whoa, that's really cool. And I'll be like, yes, listen to this, y'all. They'll be like, that's fucking brilliant. Well, yeah, because it came from Spirit, it didn't come from me. So learning, hey, Bass, you gotta learn how to listen to Spirit, and let Spirit say, oh, that's it. You can be surfing the internet, reading a book about different magical traditions or a particular type of witchcraft. You'll know if it's not gonna work for you. For example, those Akashic records. I thought that was some African, right? And all the black folks started talking about it, and then I picked up this book. And it is, it's a basically Akashic records. The theory is nothing new, but calling it an Akashic record is a particular tradition's way of doing it, and that's out of Thelema, and that's a European tradition. And I was just like, oh wow, I think that all these black people running around here talking about the Akashic records. I think that they may not know that. And my question always is, for me, because that cultural connection, I'm 74% African, so that cultural connection is deep, 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 and it might not be the same for everybody, but for me, that guides my magic, because I know that's where my juice is. I know that's where my people are. So why would I not be incredibly interested in stuff like that? So I always wanted to be like, okay, well, the idea of ancestral memory and things like that, that's not just part of that religion. We have that in African tradition. So you want to go and find the words and look those things up and see those traditions, because that if you read this book that I was reading about the Akashic records, it was not my magical cup of tea. It was not the types of people that I roll with, for various reasons. And there was a lot of was that the Akashic records? A lot of God talk, and I was like, wait a minute, what God? And I knew that it was not really. I was not feeling it. Maybe that's not all of Akashic records, but I know it's not my area of study. And one of the things is I can get it, I can understand it, and have an appreciation of it. But mastery is often guided by passion. And so, yeah, exactly, And so a lot of people don't know that. And like, for example, like Reiki, okay, that particular practice with its rules and rituals and the things that it does is of Asian origin. Now, in the black church, we have laying of hands. And I'm sure that if you took that far back enough, you would find the traditional African belief in that type of healing. It's just a different modality. And that's not to say that there's anything wrong with learning Reiki, but I find that people are most uncomfortable magically when they're not working with a cultural lens that they can get down with. And so for me, like a lot of the things that people consider new age, like crystals and like different forms of what they would say are, elemental witchcraft, it seems to be more of a European idea. But, knowing what I know about African traditional religions, I see the ties, I see the relations, and I also see the differences. But, when I first started practicing, like I said, I did readings, and I did a lot of free readings for people. I mean, I would never charge. I was using tarot cards that had the meanings written on the cards. And I did about 100 divinations with different friends and people for free. And for myself. And then, I mean, spot on, bam, 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 to where I interviewed for my mentors at the Voodoo store, and I gave the owner, Alan, a reading, and he was like, hot damn, you're hired. So, but that's because I poured over these cards that I connected with so well. Not everybody's going to connect with tarot. I read playing cards. I love reading playing cards, but I hate teaching playing card magic. And I know y'all be wanting me to have that class, but to me it's boring. Because really, literally, you're looking at the suits and what they mean. And we talk about the relationship to tarot. And then I'll even put their numerology meanings in. And then, there's so many layers to playing card. A 7 of spades is not going to mean the same thing. And that really, really, that's why a lot of people lean on playing cards. That's why you'll see a lot of Haitian Mambos read playing cards. And hoodoos read playing cards. Because not a lot of people, but some of them had them, but not a lot of people had tarot cards at their disposal. Right, and that's the thing. That's why I love reading. You get you a solid yes or no, and the reasons why. Don't ask no questions, don't tell no lies, boom. But still, that relationship, I can just go over a list of definitions. In playing cards, you can put them in the spread the same way you would put the tarot cards in the spread. Learn how to build your own spreads. But if you're going to be a magical practitioner, find yourself a divination system. Okay, so you don't like cards. Make yourself a bone kit. Bones and curios and shells, as Michelle's book is called, Michelle Jackson. She teaches the bone reading class, the Big Woods Conjure. And she'll get you a starter kit, but you can also construct your own, and that is what I have done. And you can do, those are very personal divination items to you. There's pendulums. Pendulums, they too flaky for me. I've used them. Most of them don't want to work. They're like that singing frog. Hello, my baby. Hello, my darling. Don't sing when I want it to. Okay. But then I've had some other ones that have really worked well. They're very secretive with me. Okay. Yeah, I love that bone reading class. I've taken it like 2 or 3 times. But you have to really, because I'm past 12 hours here for my day. And that included working my day job all day and then going and doing some different stuff in the store right now. Getting ready to we pulled up the carpet in the back room and because we had a leak in the ceiling and this has been interesting. And the landlord got to get the roofer out there and I ain't paying for none of it. Now, if y'all recall, when I moved into my store, the air conditioning didn't work. Okay? Needless to say, we're the way these retail real estate leases are set up, you're responsible for all repairs in the store, except for the outer areas, like the roof and stuff like that. And they were trying to get me to buy a new air conditioning unit for them when that damn thing was so old you couldn't even read the model number anymore. You couldn't even get parts for it. Thank you, Magic, because I got a brand new air conditioner a few weeks ago. Now, did I have to wait for it? Yeah, but I put the spirits on them to do that. And the guy who was the supervisor, who was the worst type of black man I could have ever dealt with in life, he don't work there no more. So that's how these things tend to go. But it does take faith. Spirituality, I don't care what it is, or what type of magical practice you might be doing. Spirituality requires work. It requires study. You remember when Yahweh asked Solomon what he wanted. Solomon was a sorcerer, a very, very, very powerful sorcerer. And Yahweh was like, oh, I need this bruh in my court. And Yahweh's like, I'll give you whatever you want. You follow me. Solomon said, I want wisdom. When you have wisdom, everything else follows. But how can you do that if you're not studying? So yes, depending on the tradition, elders are incredibly important. But you're really still kind of on the doofus end of things if you're not being led to look at the scholarship or whatever holy books or whatever information you have that you can do self-study. You should not be at the sole, your elder for every single piece of knowledge gets spoon-fed to you. It doesn't work like that. So you do have to study. But you do have to find, you don't have to do 50 million 11 things. What I love and what I tell people to do is, you want to learn tarot, pull a card every day. Read about what it means in its upright or reversed position. And at the end of your day, write about it. Write about how it manifested. And that way you'll learn the cards. Just like Christians, my dad's in the church, and he'd get up every morning and read his Bible and have his devotion. That's like pulling his card, And he got that information, and for the day, used it to deal and manipulate energy throughout the day. Okay? And so that's no different. Just because you're in spirituality doesn't mean you don't have to do these things. Get in the habit of talking to your ancestors. I talk to my ancestors in the morning while I'm cooking our food. Okay, what are we doing today? Okay. Yeah, these are all the things. I talk to them like if they were here, especially the ones closest to me. Yeah, I got to go do this today. How I'm going to do this? And I used to say all the time when I was a Christian that I was talking to God. I talk to myself a lot. So I spend a lot of my time thinking and talking to Spirit about how I'm going to do things, how I'm going to maneuver things. And a lot of times I would do it out loud. Luckily, because I'm here, living in my house and I have privacy. Not necessarily something that you need to be making Facebook Lives about or YouTube or Instagram videos. But, spend a few minutes a day with Spirit and increase your practice. Like, for example, get a book about crystals and every day read about a new crystal, what it does. Okay? Then maybe go online and see about other articles and see if there are patterns. That's how you can tell if something's legitimate or not. Unless if a well-respected elder taught you, or if you're doing research and you see consistent patterns, that's tradition. That way you can tell when you're reading some old bullshit. I remember I was reading this book, Spiritual Merchants. I was that woman's Facebook friend. I had to unfriend her. And I got turned off. I want to go, and I'll probably read some of it tonight. But I got turned off by reading that book because she made a comparison of Yemaya and said that Zili Danto was her counterpart. And I'm like, no. I mean, you might have some shared energies with La Saren, and we use statues of Yemaya to represent La Saren. But you're talking about Danto that is a fire spirit and Yemaya that is water? Who gave you this information? This was her research of all these spiritual shops and botanicas. And like I said, I've only gotten in towards the front before I smelled bullshit. How did I smell bullshit? Because I'd studied the traditions enough to know their deities and what they represented. And that's what you're going to have to do. It doesn't matter whether you're doing an ATR or any other type of occult practice. That's what you're going to have to do. Because a lot of the times we get people who, and the person that I was mentoring tonight, she's like, yeah, a lot of these people on the internet, especially Instagram, I just don't get a good feeling from them. And I feel like I know you. And I'm like, well, that's because I am me. You're looking at somebody, a child of the 70s. I was taught at a very early age, try not to be me. After you stopped watching Sesame Street and Free to Be You and Me, and you got to be an adolescent and an adult in American society, you were taught to be anything but what you were. So here I am in magic, living what I want to live, which is, in fact, a closer relationship with the energies of the earth and the properties of everything in the universe. I want to be one with the universe. A lot of folks get their life right once they hit middle age because, hey, you want to make sure you are where you want to be in your next realm, in your next life, in your next energy form. And so when people always ask me about practicing magic and leaving Christianity, was I worried about my salvation? I'm like, no, I'm not. Because I know everybody says it's been bought and paid. And in a lot of these religions, we don't have to worry about those types of things. I don't even believe in hell except here. This is hell. So, but I came through those understandings by study, by researching things, by going and doing and visiting and sitting with elders and talking with elders and learning and reading and actually at the end of the day doing the goddamned work. I'm like I said, I live my existence is magic all the time. I would hope, but if I gotta go and lay down the hammer on somebody who's fucking with me, or if I'm feeling a little tight in my pocketbook, or if I want to heal not just myself but my family from generational cycles and pain, then I need that. I need them. I need to know how to tap into that. Whether it is sitting and doing some candle magic, putting a motherfucker in a coffin, holding on to a crystal, meditating, sitting at the ancestor altar, crying in front of any one of these given altars because I'm fucking going through it. That's how you live it. None of this shit makes you perfect. But one of the things I'm going to tell you all, and you're going to have to start to trust vibes and trust your own discernment. If you are dealing with people and they make you feel some kind of way, then they really ain't your tribe. And then there are situations where people just really pretend to be somebody that they're not. It happens. But I'm going to say for me, at least 80% of my misjudgment of someone's character was because I didn't trust my vibe. Like, oh, I judge. You too judgmental, or, no, that person's just different. You want everybody to be like you. So chill on that, no. So get real clear with yourself, because that's the problem. We don't trust our spirits, which means we don't trust our ancestors, which in the end means that we don't trust our God. Now that's really fucked up. and you call yourself spiritual, well, if you ain't trusting your spirits, how in the fuck spiritual are you? But, as I said before, I'm telling you, this is a lifelong thing. It's not like some people maybe be like Raven and be like, and get the vision or whatever. But usually for a lot of people who are spiritual and consort and converse with spirits, it's sometimes usually that slow till they're like, bam! Okay? You give you a little bit here, give you a little bit there, give you a little bit there. Pick up on the little bits. Pick up on the little bits. Because it will help you put a picture together a lot more quickly. It's going to be the same Monet, look pretty from a distance and crazy fucking close up. So get those little bits. Start putting those little bits together and see what kind of colors you're getting or energy you're getting. Because, they say first impressions are important. But I'm just saying that I think it would all serve us a lot better in our practices if we really did trust ourselves more. I've made mistakes and I've made good decisions. Sometimes not trusting myself, but more often they were mistakes. And we more often than not, we mislead ourselves. So like I said, that Eight of Swords that I showed you, she's surrounded by swords. Her eyes are covered. She blind. She can't see shit. Can't read nothing. Can't learn nothing. Can't observe nothing. Can't do nothing. Ears probably wrapped around her goddamned ears. And her arms are tied. And the castle is behind her. And all the obstacles are between her. And, don't put yourself there. The only way that you get yourself out of an obstacle is to learn how to get yourself out of it. Like I have a situation, like I said, we got a situation where we had to take the carpet out the back, which was good because carpet and candle making don't mix. And, they've got us, don't you jump up here, Jezebel. Go on somewhere, cat. She just really want, come here, Jezzy. You want to say hi to the people? Come here. Come on, I'll pick you up, fatness. Come here. You want to pick you up? Come on. Come here. Oh, this cat has got to be 20 pounds. Say hello, Jazzy. Are you going to say hello? Ruthie's on here. You terrorized her, kitty cat. Why are you so big? You like that cat? Don't fight my camera. That's you. You probably know that's you because you're vain. Yes, like every other member of this household. Bye-bye. So anyways, because if I did not do that, she'd have jumped up and clawed me. You know what? You come get her. Come get her. I picked her up on 63rd and Eberhard on the south side. Should have left your ass there. She jumped into the car, though. But so we couldn't say, no, don't come over here, fatness. You too big for me. So in any case, you do need to find something that you really like. I know like I said, a lot of black folks, we resonate with that ancestor power. Okay? But, a lot of us that either don't know or we got some ancestors, our immediate ones that ain't full of ain't shittiness. And you don't want to deal with that. Well, you get no more closer to creation than creation itself. So then there's earth magic. And then you start learning the energy surrounding the different elements of everything. This liquid crystal display works the way that it does because it has energy and it conducts certain energies well. It's why it doesn't melt. And so, learning different things like that. But you're going to have to learn something. You can't, and like I said, for me, and I keep scratching my nose, I'm not doing any illicit drugs. I think I need to dust. That's my spirit's like, I hit these altars this weekend. Okay. I've been a little busy. It is not about being perfect. And it's not right. You know, the ain't shittiness, you know, there's some ancestors I'm not fucking with. Powerful conjurers, too, if family stories are true. But, you know, my spirit has not put, every time I think about this particular ancestor, my spirit's like, not yet. Not yet. There's certain folks you want to deal with and spirits that you have to deal with when you have run out of other options. You know, don't use up the most problematic problem ones, especially ones that were conjurers, on, you know, dumbass little love spells and stuff like that. You don't. And then you also might run the risk, depending on how evolved that or ascended that spirit is, of recreating more problems. So, and those are things you have to learn. And I can't tell you how to receive a spirit message other than just be open and observant. There are some people who don't get psychic messages at all. You know, we got 50 million 11 muggles out here who don't get those messages, but it's not because they're not capable. It's because they don't try. And there are different methods for trying. So we all have that ability. We are our own gods. And even the Bible says you are made in the image of God. We are the sum of all our ancestors and everything that became before them. We're the sum of all of those parts. And there's power and talent in each and every one of us. You know, I cannot sing. Ooh, don't never, ever, 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 ever ask me to sing. I sound like that goat, you know. Yeah, that's, you know. And it hurt, too, because, boy, if I could sing. But, see, if I could have sung, I probably would have crashed and burned. I probably would have been the Black Janis Joplin. And, you know, she ruined her voice singing in the way that she did. She was classical vocalist. I probably would have crashed and burned if I had been able to sing and dance. Well, definitely, I would have been in Hollywood in the late 70s, because I'd have started as a child in the early 80s, and, you know, folks was dropping like flies then. So, you know, that was probably one of the reasons why a person with my particular natal chart wasn't given those talents. But if you got them, use them. I'm thirsty. But listen, I'm tired. It's probably bedtime. I was a hoe. I just know I don't know. Can you call it hoeing if you ain't getting paid? I don't know. You know, I'd have been a hoe. I'd have been what I really grew up wanting to be. I never told anybody this. This is a world premiere one thing here. I wanted to be a madam. But I wanted, at first I wanted to be a madam of a house of ill repute for where women were employed. And then I got older, because I saw Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. Okay, I was a slut. I was a fucking freak. I don't refuse to be called a slut, because that's the double standard right there. I was a fucking freak. So, and so if I could have sung and danced, like I said, y'all, I'd have Amy Winehouse, you know, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin out. I'm sure of it. So I you know, what I once thought was a bad thing, a curse even, that I couldn't sing and dance like the rest of the people in my family, probably was in my best interest. Okay? Right. If I hadn't gained all this weight in college either, ooh, baby, whoa, ooh. Listen, and I teach all of these things to my daughter now so that she doesn't make the same mistakes that I did. And, but it is hard. She's at that age, and especially when she's not able to leave and go to college yet, because these numbers are escalating and they are all-time records. And she's going to take next semester off. And she's going to be developing more body butters and doing different things to help fund her education. But she's a freshman in college first semester. She's almost done with her associates. She's been taking college classes since her freshman year of high school. Excuse me. So, you know, just taking that time. How many people actually get that time? But you do. You're going to have to. You're going to have time for yourself. Well, I'm not a morning person, so it always happens for me at night. And so that's why a lot of the times you guys have been not seeing lives with me. I've been really busy. It is just me and Trini at the store, and her boyfriend Pookie. And that's it. That's it. And that's all it's going to be for a very, very long time. Rethinking, even though I'm only a third into my lease, about what I'm going to do when the lease is up. Because, the store thing, it's nice. I love having it. It was a dream. It was a goal, and I smashed that shit. And then COVID smashed me. So I don't know if it makes a lot of fiscal sense after that lease is up, because Lord knows what the fuck's gonna happen. We'll talk about that later, Mary. If your friend's watching you on live and sending you texts, that's my accountant. So in any case, if you are getting a minute to breathe, and if you are interested in occult studies, then find something. It doesn't have to be everything. And see, because you got people on the internet who are constantly posting new things or more knowledge than you have, or doing the most. Some of them ain't right in the head. Do what's good for you, and learn it well. And if it's something that doesn't sit well with you, by all means, put it down and find something else. But you're not going to be able to practice magic if you are not in touch with who you are. If you're not in touch with what makes you tick. If you are not knowledgeable of the options that are available to you. Okay? Because nobody can really mentor you if you don't know. I can show you the different places where you can go to find the information, to get the inspiration, and then come back to me. And I can possibly refer you to teachers or resources. Sometimes I can't, because there's some folks in some of these religions, I ain't referring nobody back to the church. I'm not doing referrals for a lot of religions these days because of the nonsense that I've seen and the things that don't set well with my spirit. And that's okay. I don't have to, but I'm not going to lead somebody somewhere just for the sake of leading them. You've got a lot of people out here who have titles just for the sake of having titles. My friend David, he posted, like, how can you be an EI Mambo and all these other things all at the same time? And the reality is, I guess you can. But each one of those practices requires separate veneration. That's a lot of time. You can't mix and mash those together. But because all of those religions understand that they're like, the Christian church say they're the one true church. I've never seen any other thing outside the Abrahamic faiths that tells you that. So it's not a matter of you can't observe multiple religions, but my God, there are 4,000, I think, of the last count. Probably maybe 40,000. I can't remember the number. A little while. I got the rest of my life to learn them and get closer to them. And not so I can go and do spell work with them for you. No. To learn about their relationship with me. And there'll be some little while that I will never, ever have close, deep relationships with. There's some energies that are just like, it's like they make up all these stories about how Azili Danto and Azili Freda hate each other, and there's a lot of folk tales in there, but the reality is, and my mama who initiated me told me, they're two different energies. And so just like I'm not gonna go and hang out with a Trump supporter, and that's a pretty big leap, but you see what I'm saying? They're completely different energies. They do not vibe well together. Some of us have blood relatives, siblings like that. You love them. You're of the same energy source, but you don't vibe well together. Your personalities clash. And that's because Azili Freda is for one thing and Azili Danto is for completely other, but they are all the divine feminine. And so those are the things you have to learn. And however you personify them, because they're all energy, they don't even have gender. At the highest primordial level. But you gotta find out what you believe in. And for some people, that's nothing. And if that works for you, that works for you. But I always believe that I am higher. There are other things for me. I believe in science. I believe energy just transforms it. It doesn't die. So why would I not try to be the highest I can be right now? It's kind of like, yes, frequencies. Being able to have, to do what they literally mean by vibrating at a higher level. And all of that came through my belief, my core principles, my morals, and my commitment to be my best self. Standard, if you like, they got these personalities. I'm D, right in the middle for dominant. And that is my personality. For whatever reason, that's my personality. So where am I going to be dominant? And one of the things I had to realize, it was controlling my own life. It was controlling the energy of the things around me. It was controlling all different types of things. But as I matured and I got spiritually changed and more mature, those things that I was dominant about, first of all, became less material and more spiritual. And my dominance, I've learned how to extract in different ways as appropriate for the situation. Does that mean that I'm always perfect and I exhibit that trait in ways that are incorrect in inappropriate certain situations? Yeah, that happens to everybody. People get mad. People lose their temper, or people repress things and don't say anything. Not having that balance. When you first pissed off about something, to sit back and be like, well, you know what? And start the conversation. Now, that's not to say the conversation will not escalate into some old bullshit, because they usually do. But it's where you're starting from. Give yourself some grace. Give yourself some room. And so those are the types of things that spirituality teaches me. Most importantly, balance. I realize that I'm not going to have, especially until maybe I'm in a tiny house or something like that, things as pristine and together and as, how I want them to be, because I'm fucking very particular, probably borderline OCD about some shit. I pulled out the fucking driveway today, and then I'm like, you know what? I was talking to you instead of paying attention to what I should have been doing in this house. I shut my house down when I leave. There are a series of things that I do. I make sure my doors are locked. Faucets are turned off. Cats are in the house and not trying to get the fuck out. And I also make sure that my stove is turned off. I've always been like that. And I must have pulled out the goddamn driveway today. And I told my daughter, I was like, you didn't check the stove. And she got out their car and she went and checked the stove. I'm like, because you're talking to me. So when you understand your personality and your personality traits, not only do you find through magic spirits and elements to balance that energy, because that's what it's about, but you also learn the sacred manipulation of that energy. And, people are like, oh, how do you believe in this? Because it worked. But why would I sit up here and talk to y'all about some shit that don't work? I don't have no time for that. There are so many things I could be doing. I could be smoking, masturbating, any of those types of things. Watching a movie, eating candy that I shouldn't be eating, or something like that. Why would I want to sit here and tell you if it didn't work? Makes no goddamn sense. Now, may not work for you. That's why it is so very important that you find that thing. Like I said, I'm into sigils. I want to start doing artwork that has sigils and roots. We were doing that at the Ohio Black Witch Circle one month. We used to do an activity every month, and that month was sigils, and I was doing the Adinkra symbol for power. And I don't know where that, I think, I didn't like where I placed the circle, because it was a full circle. And which is funny to me when you think about casting circles, especially when doing spell work. But the other people who were here that night were able to mix roots and stuff in their paints and make their own unique sigils. And so, like I said, Arius is a friend of mine, and I can hook up anybody with him that wants to take his sigil class, and I believe he's teaching that this Friday, because I'm teaching Friday the 13th, Magic 101, and he's teaching a sigil class at that time too. But if you've had Magic 101 or you are beyond Magic 101 and you want to know more about sigils and things like that. So like I said, I'm like I should have been an anthropology major, but it is really important for me to study the culture of what I believe in. And for me, it definitely has to be the culture that resonates actually within me. And but the thing is there is a plethora of magical information out here, you all. But you'll never manifest shit if you don't know how. But I'm just like I tell people been praying for years. What you think that was? You asking a higher power, one that you believe to be even omnipotent and omnipresent, to manipulate energy in your favor. And then you've been walking around believing about guardian angels, right? And they protect and watch over you. And, you grew up talking about the devil, didn't you? And, the energy that the devil does. And so, yeah, it's pretty much the same thing, just told, not the plagiarism. It's not even that far off the original story, but makes some very crucial errors of omission. And so for me to get closer to how people first, really, and I don't believe I've not read a text. I'm not going to say this is true and tell me if I'm wrong. But other than, the burning bush, yeah, you didn't even get to see them. People that actually walked with the Creator. They always walked with the energies and the things and the manifestations of that Creator. And that's the closest you was going to get. So that's why it is very important, just like, being an elemental witch and understanding fire, earth, spirit, air, and water. I look at folks that are elemental witches. I'm like, how the fuck can you not be for the Paris Climate Accord? How the fuck could you be a Trump supporter if you don't support the maintaining of the very elements needed for our survival? That makes no goddamn sense. But in any case, I've talked a lot. I just wish that we would study more. We would at least study to the point to find what we're interested in. It's not going to come by digital download. It's not going to come by osmosis. Please don't come to a magical mentoring session not knowing what you want to study. I mean, you don't know what you don't know. All I'm going to be able to tell you is go look it up. African traditional religions, what are they? Read about them. Read the basic premise. See about talking to elders. Reading more in-depth articles. But you got to look. You got to look. And now more than ever, there's all kinds of unspeakable things that you can learn how to do on the internet. Why? Because I've looked, okay? All kind of shit. All right? But you can find some basics. And yes, you might have to read 20 or 30 articles about one topic to see maybe one or two fine lines, and the rest might just be bullshit. That's how, traditions survive, by doing the same things over and over again. And those are patterns. So look for patterns in your research. That way it will help also light candles, use herbs and oils and things that are going to open up your mind and open up your third eye and open up your chakras and open up your energy to be able to be on that bullshit perception. Because my bullshit meter is really fine tuned, and I can pick up something and be like, the fuck is this? And then I'll go and talk to somebody who's an elder or experienced in the religion and be like, what the fuck is this? And they'd be like, that is some old bullshit. And then I'll be like, thank you, bullshit meter. Next book, next article, next YouTube video, next Instagram, next Facebook post, next Facebook Live. Somebody sent me a Facebook Live of somebody talking about sigils, except, they didn't pronounce sigils correctly. And I'm like, okay, somebody should have told her by now that's not how those are pronounced. So that means that that person is either learning by themselves and pronouncing things the way they want to, or that their elder was mistaught. Like, I ran into this one woman at Witch Fest in New York City, and I asked her what her cat's name was, and she was like, Hecate. And I'm like, Hecate? What is that? Queen of the Witches out of Kentucky? Hecate? It is Hecate. And that is the way the culture pronounces it. And because I asked her what her dog's name was. First, people naming spirits after their dogs after spirits. Oh, great. So she said, her name is Hecate. And I'm like, well, if you were trying to name her after the queen of all witches, I hate to inform you, but the Greek scholars pronounce it Hecate. And I've had this disagreement with some country-ass white people before, too, as well. And then she makes up a lie. Then she says, oh, it used to be Hecate, but everybody used to get so offended when I told them her name. And I'm like, no, they didn't. Because most of these muggles don't know who the hell Hecate is. And, a lot of folks who practice magic don't know who she is. But see, I had the great pleasure of being magically mentored by someone who venerates her. And, just the look on her face because she had been caught in a lie. Don't be out here caught in a lie, y'all. You've already seen a lot of the people that we've respected that were supposed to have been trained properly and not taking advantage of people or their lack of knowledge are on some ain't shittiness. We've seen it. And we keep seeing it. And this ain't nothing new. I've been seeing this for the past decade that I've been running in these internet crowds of spirituality. There's frauds everywhere. And there are fucking sociopaths and megalomaniacs and everything. So yeah, you're going to find them in magic as well. It's very sad. But, you're going to have to get your own discernment, your own knowledge. And the only way you're going to have to do that is going to have to go deep. Mind, body, spirit. You have to do the work. You have to study. You have to condition your mind and, your body, your actions and the things that you do in your ritual. That's the only way you're going to dig deep. Otherwise, it's spirituality light. And if that's what gets you by, then God's bless you. But most people I know that come in here and want to practice magic, they want something more. You're going to have to get on something more. And that something more is going to require work and personal accountability. There's no way around it. Y'all have a good evening. It's time for me to go to bed. I am fried. Good night.